All right, good morning, everyone. And in advance of the holiday, happy Labor Day. My name is Kurt Erickson, and I serve as president of the Virginia-based and nonprofit Washington Regional Alcohol Program, or RAP, which is an organization founded 34 years ago dedicated to fighting drunk driving and underage drinking. In addition to RAP being a three-time winner of Virginia's prestigious Governor's Transportation Safety Award, it also serves as project director of the Commonwealth's Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign, the 2016 version, which is going to be unveiled today. And today's site for doing so is most appropriate as the Commonwealth Public Safety Memorial behind me honors Virginia's nearly 900 public safety officers who have died in the line of duty, ensuring that no Virginia hero is forgotten. While my organization is honored to serve as the project director for the educational component of Virginia's Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign, it should equally be noted that the funding agency for the statewide investment yielding the recent dividends of safer roads for all of us is represented today by today's first and welcoming speaker. As Assistant Commissioner of a state agency which serves more than 8 million customers each year, she helps oversee an agency focused on decreasing the number of deaths and injuries occurring on the Commonwealth's roadways. And they accomplish as much by embodying an unwavering commitment to traffic safety by investing in results-oriented, research-based public education initiatives that, in short, aim to get drivers to drive smart, safe, and sober. Providing today's official welcome, please welcome the Assistant Commissioner of the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles, Ms. Millicent Ford.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Kurt. And we appreciate everyone taking the time out of their schedules to continue to shine the spotlight on and raise awareness around a very important topic, highway safety and drunk driving, in particular in Virginia. Virginia DMV Commissioner Richard Holcomb, who couldn't be here today, is the governor's highway safety representative and a strong advocate of the Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign. As Kurt mentioned, a core goal of the Department of Motor Vehicles Highway Safety Office is to continue to reduce traffic crashes and fatalities in Virginia, especially those involving alcohol. To that end, DMV sponsors the Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign to provide additional resources for Virginia law enforcement agencies to crack down on drunk driving and to deploy a proactive advertising and public awareness effort to deter would-be drunk drivers. Despite gains over the past generation, it is clear that our goal of eliminating drunk driving from our roads is far from met. As proof of that, through August 25th of this year, Virginia has already recorded 4,362 alcohol-related traffic crashes. And despite our best efforts, 32% of all of Virginia's highway fatalities last year involved drivers with a .08 blood or higher blood alcohol concentration. Over the Labor Day holiday period, specifically, Virginia has recorded 3 consecutive year increases in highway fatalities. Every injury or fatality represents an individual and family who will never be the same. Some may be mourning the loss of a loved one, while others are coping with their injuries. Raising awareness about the sobering consequences of impaired driving is vital to reducing these unacceptable and preventable tragedies. While striving to reach all would-be drunk drivers, Virginia's Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign aims hardest at males aged 21 to 35, a demographic that is consistently overrepresented in drunk driving crash statistics. And unfortunately, last year was no exception, as nearly 70% of all those convicted of DUI in Virginia were male drivers. In addition to Virginia's Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign deploying a stepped-up law enforcement effort to promote a multi-jurisdictional fight against drunk driving, the campaign applied the findings of recent focus groups and scientific public opinion surveys of area groups of area drivers to identify precisely how to reach and motivate our target audience. The latest survey, completed just last month, of 1,000 area male drivers under age 21, of the 1,000 area male drivers ages 25 to 31, that is. In that survey, they found that while nearly 2/3, or 65% of the 21 to 35-year-olds admit either driving after having a few drinks or being driven by someone who's had a few drinks, they also believe that drunk drivers are a serious danger. The survey additionally found that while designating a driver was the top answer as to how 25 to 35-year-olds plan a safe ride home, less than 2/3, or 59%, frequently plan ahead for that safe ride home. Guided by this research, Virginia's 2016 Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign will simultaneously run approximately 35,000 campaign ads, running on nearly 70 television, cable, and radio stations throughout the Commonwealth, as well as both movie theater and digital advertising in the state. Virginia's 30-second Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign television spots strategically celebrated the beauty of designated sober drivers. The TV spots introduced last year proactively communicate that nothing's more beautiful than a safe ride home, whether it's in a cab, public transportation, with a sober friend, or through a transportation network company such as Uber or Lyft. With our individual decisions, each of us can make a difference in stopping drunk driving. Together as a community, we can all make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Commissioner Ford. I should reiterate that Virginia's Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign started in 2002 is part of a research-based, multi-state, zero-tolerance initiative designed to get impaired drivers off the roads using checkpoints, sobriety checkpoints, and patrols, along with education about the dangers and consequences of driving while intoxicated. While aiming to reach all potential drunk drivers, the statewide enforcement and education campaign specifically focuses on males aged 21 to 35, a demographic representing nearly 1/3 of all persons killed in Virginia's alcohol-related traffic crashes last year. Again, welcome to Virginia's Labor Day Traffic Safety News Conference and 15th Annual Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign launch. This morning you'll hear of efforts to ensure public safety on Virginia's roadways, both during the historically dangerous Labor Day holiday, but so too throughout the rest of the calendar year. To that end, our next speaker brings to this role both a demonstrated passion for public service, particularly in the area of public safety, as well as a unique combination of experience, including serving the Commonwealth as prosecutor, 7-time state delegate, Virginia State Crime Commission member, and Virginia Alcohol Safety Action Board member, thereby putting him in a catbird seat of which to put safety first in Virginia. Please join me in welcoming Virginia's Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security, the Honorable Brian Moran.
Thank you, Kurt, very much. Thank you on behalf of Governor McAuliffe. Welcome to the beautiful grounds of the Capitol. And it is indeed fitting for us to bring attention to this issue here at the Commonwealth's Public Safety Memorial. Because as Kurt mentioned, close to 900 names are represented on this memorial, many of whom were killed in the line of duty because they were responding to a drunk driving either accident or incident, arrest. So as we talk about the dangers that the individual himself brings to the roads as well as the traveling public, we must also keep in mind that you're endangering our law enforcement personnel having to respond to these cases. So it is wonderful to be joined this morning by our wonderful law enforcement officers in uniform today. I know the Virginia State Police is well represented here this morning, as well as Henrico County Police and the Chesterfield County Police. So we appreciate their presence here today. And I'm not sure if Richmond is here or not, but I can see, well, they're probably already busy out over. There's Richmond over here. They're shy. Okay. Thanks for Richmond to show up. So Kurt has asked me to provide some remarks, and as he was kind enough to provide some background, I did serve as a prosecutor and served as a legislator. And I will tell you, this is one of those issues that receives bipartisan support. Both Democrats and Republicans in the legislature have dictated a no tolerance or zero tolerance policy. We have indeed passed tough legislation, whether it's around driver's licenses, mandatory ignition locks, teen driving, and the penalties associated with those who would drive on our roads in impaired or drunk fashion. So we have zero tolerance. We get tough. If somebody does this, they should know that they're going to be handled with severity, and appropriately so, whether it's by fines or jail time. But despite that, what is so frustrating around this issue is, as Commissioner Ford mentioned, is that we continue to have incidents, too many, of drunk driving, resulting particularly in either crashes or deaths, fatalities. I mean, there is some good news. There is some good news report because of the wonderful activities of Kurt's organization and the AAA and all of these law enforcement agencies. Over the last 3 years, fatalities have actually decreased. But Labor Day fatalities have actually increased. 40% of our nationwide fatalities occur on this weekend. That is why we are here on the eve of our Labor Day weekend, to bring attention to this issue. Please don't drink and drive. Please consider the ramifications to you personally, whether it's in jail time or other penalties. And if that doesn't convince you, please consider how you are endangering your family, others in the vehicle, others on the road, and our law enforcement officers. You know, our community does not accept this behavior. Just this week, a prosecution occurred in Alexandria of a woman who had been not once, not twice, but 3 times convicted of drunk driving. And that community spoke through that jury and sentenced her to 3 years incarceration. Now, I'm especially proud of that because that was a bill I sponsored in the legislature to make sure that it was a felony punishment for third or subsequent drunk drivings. Once is too many. 3 times is absolutely unacceptable, and I'm glad that jury spoke on behalf of that community. So let's bring attention to this on the eve of Labor Day. Please consider the ramifications of your behavior. It is not acceptable to drink and drive. Please do it responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Moran. To now focus on the pending holiday and its ramifications relative to highway safety, the number of Virginians anticipated to be hitting the road this weekend, and how much they'll be paying for gasoline over the holiday. Please welcome a longtime Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign friend and Virginia traffic safety leader, the Manager of Public and Government Affairs for AAA Mid-Atlantic, based right here in Richmond, Ms. Martha Mead.
Thank you, Kurt. Safety is important every day of the year, but it's especially important over a holiday weekend when we all know that Virginia roadways will be extremely busy, actually packed with holiday revelers for this last hurrah of the summer. Historically, about 1 million Virginians travel over the Labor Day weekend. 9 out of 10 drive. Again, roadways will be packed. As we look toward Friday afternoon and evening, Monday afternoon and evening, Virginians need to be prepared to share the roadway and be prepared for delays. They're simply unavoidable. AAA urges motorists to take those delays in stride because they are indeed minor. They're a minor inconvenience when compared to the dangers of drunk, drugged, drowsy, or distracted driving. The consequences and dangers for those behaviors are deadly. Labor Day gas prices are the big story this year, as they're expected to be the lowest we've seen in 12 years for Labor Day in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That goes back all the way to 2004. Interestingly, it's the first time in many years that motorists have reported to us that gas prices are actually impacting the decision to travel. Gas price fluctuations, of course, for many, many years became a part of everyday life across this country and in Virginia, and motorists reported to us time and time again that gas price fluctuations were not impacting the decision to travel. This year, however, a AAA survey shows that 55% of Americans say they are more likely to take a trip over Labor Day because it costs less to fill their tank. Gas prices are simply too low for Virginians to forego that last great summer getaway. While fuel prices have been rising slightly for the past 2 weeks after dropping for 2 straight months, that trend may be temporary. Refinery issues in the Gulf Coast, OPEC's talks of lowering production, of course storms in the Gulf of Mexico, and the possibility that the Federal Reserve may raise interest rates all caused crude oils to uptick slightly. Provided, however, no storms impact production and supply, and other factors remain stable, the consumer price for gas could level off or even drop after this weekend. After Labor Day, of course, the demand drops and refineries switch to the more affordable winter blends of gasoline. These factors generally result in lower prices at the pump. Virginia gas prices today are the 5th lowest in the nation. Only 4 states have gas prices higher than we do here in the Commonwealth. Today, the average, $2.03 for self-serve unleaded. That's up 10 cents from a month ago, but down 17 cents compared to last year, and down $1.66 if we look back to 2011. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Finally, into better detail, the law enforcement component of both this weekend's public safety effort as well as that occurring throughout the remainder of 2016. We're honored to have with us this afternoon someone more than capable of detailing the role of the Commonwealth's law enforcement agencies in Virginia's 15th annual Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign, as he serves as their Director of Field Operations for a statewide law enforcement agency unquestionably responsible for a good number of Virginia's over 20,000 annual DUI convictions. Please welcome the Virginia State Police Lieutenant Colonel George Daniels, Jr.
Thank you, Kurt. Let me start by emphasizing that the Virginia State Police is reaffirming our long-standing commitment to crack down on drunk driving, a very serious problem that continues to endanger our highways and wreck lives with a death nearly every day. Just Monday of this week in Northern Virginia on Interstate 495, a drunk driver claimed the life of a Minnesota woman. Her 2 children were seated next to her at the time of the crash and witnessed her death when their vehicle was struck by the impaired driver. The impaired driver, a 23-year-old male driving on a suspended license, then fled the scene. Within a matter of hours of the fatal crash, our troopers had him in custody and arrested on charges of DUI and manslaughter. Drunk driving takes a life, on average, every 36 hours in Virginia. Drunk drivers don't discriminate. They put everyone on the road at risk. A painful and never-ending reality for the families of the 241 people who died in alcohol-related traffic crashes in Virginia last year. That is why we are proud and so determined to continue the Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign by helping raise public awareness of both the dangers and the consequences of drunk driving, and by employing various enforcement methods and strategies to deter and detect those who choose to engage in such reckless behavior. Across the Commonwealth, state and local law enforcement are stepping up the deployment of sobriety checkpoints and saturation patrols to ensure maximum visibility. Nearly 200 local law enforcement agencies, along with Virginia State Police area offices, all participating in Virginia's 2016 Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign. In tandem with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over enforcement mobilization, Virginia law enforcement members will be conducting approximately 140 sobriety checkpoints and 530 saturation patrols this month through December the 31st, 2016. Under the unifying Checkpoint Strikeforce banner, the state police and our local law enforcement partners across Virginia will be deploying high visibility enforcement efforts to identify and apprehend impaired drivers. Inasmuch all drivers in or through the Commonwealth are being reminded that the penalties for even for a first-time DUI conviction in Virginia are great and include mandatory ignition interlock installation on the offender's vehicle, as well as fines up to $2,500, suspension periods of your license for up to 1 year, and jail sentences also up to 1 year. Last year in Virginia, there were 20,768 DUI convictions statewide, with many of those resulting from law enforcement sobriety checkpoints and saturation patrols. That averages to someone being convicted, not just arrested, but convicted for drunk driving every 25 minutes in Virginia. These numbers represent lives saved and clearly show that increased enforcement is working. But enforcement only goes so far. Stopping drunk driving takes everyone's participation, whether it is planning ahead, taking the keys, designating a sober driver, or calling a cab or transportation network company. Our goal is to not only decrease impaired driving fatalities and injuries, but to eradicate them altogether. And the only way to do this is to engage all motorists in this campaign. As a law enforcement officer, I have witnessed firsthand the devastation of drinking and driving and the effects it particularly has on families, friends, and entire communities. Sadly, I, like so many of those gathered here today and patrolling our roads right now, have done too many death notifications because of a driver's deadly decision to drive impaired. Drunk driving is never worth the risk. It is truly that simple. If anyone chooses to do so, they can expect to be arrested by a Virginia trooper, a sheriff's deputy, or a local police officer. This they can count on. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Daniels. That concludes today's news conference. I believe that the majority of today's speakers are available for interviews